So, Daniel and I thought we'd make a short film about watering, because it's one of those things that comes up all the time. People are always asking, how much shall I water this? How much shall I water that? And it's almost impossible to answer that, I have to say. There's no rules about watering, but what there are is some messages, some hints, some things which I can pass on, and also some things to look out for. So the first thing I wanted to show you in relation to that is that plants sort of cry out for water when they really need it. And there's a courgette on the corner here. These are some courgettes in the Tetra Paks. I made a previous short film about using Tetra Paks for pots. And this one on the corner's really wilting. And it ought, to me, that ought to sort of scream out to anyone. It's saying, you know, I need water. The others are basically fine. And there's a little lettuce on the corner here. I left these lettuces today out so that they would get watered from underneath, because there's a lot of roots in each of these lettuces, so they really need to be well soaked. But there's one on the corner there it's not in the water, and so it's completely dried out and is definitely dead. So a courgette like that, that's well dry now. I'd want to water that from the underneath. So you know, that you can see thoroughly sort of weeping. No, it's not weeping, it's an unhappy courgette. So I'd always water from underneath, something like that. So I'm putting it right into a basin of water. That could be any container you wanted. And in general, seedlings, especially small ones, are better watered from underneath, because there's always a risk that they'll get too wet if you're watering them from above, and that they'll damp off. But this is getting the water to the right place, the roots right at the bottom of the pot. And overwatering is always too much, you know, is as much of a problem potentially as underwatering, especially for little things. So if you've got little seedlings like basil, tomato, anything like that, then you know, overwatering can be just as much of a risk as underwatering. Overwatering, you'll see that the plant is looking a bit soggy. The soil is definitely dark, and if you're getting any little flies, any smell, anything like that, it's definitely overwatered. But it's better actually to take something, you know, like a courgette. It's better to take that to the point of wilting and then water it well than to let the whole thing get soggy. So I just want to show you something else, two other things about watering. We'll go and look at some broad beans up the garden, and I'll just water them for you as I feel they should be watered. And then we'll have a quick look at something in the greenhouse, which illustrates what I was talking to you just now about watering from underneath. So here I am in some broad beans that I planted only 2 or 3 days ago. So it's been a really hot day, and I want to water them. I watered them when I planted them, but I want to water them again because it's been too hot for them. The thing I want to get across is that it's really important not to water too little, because what you don't want to happen is the roots to come up to the surface, and then you water them again maybe in a few days, still up on the surface, and then you forget them. And all they've got is this layer of roots right at the surface, and they've never really put their roots down. So what you want to do is either water them properly or don't water them at all. So by that I mean, you know, you're giving them quite a lot of water. And so I'd be watering them like this, and then maybe stopping so that doesn't run off too much. Do another lot, or, you know, come back and then water them again, you know, so that what you need to be thinking of is water that's really getting down into the roots, that's quite low down. Because, as I say, what's so important is that you're not pulling the roots up to the surface where, you know, in later sunny days they'll just get burnt off. So if you're going to water, do it properly. So the other thing to say about watering is about shade. If it's hot, you can always shade things, and particularly little things need shade. So down here I've got some fleece, which is a roll of fleece. I've got that over these things which I've just pricked out, or recently pricked out. That's a box full of dill. So I'm watering them from underneath. This is a soggy mat, could be soggy newspaper, to keep them wet from underneath and wet all around them. And then, because it was so hot today, I've just been covering them with that. And if you haven't got fleece, you can just use a bit of newspaper. I've got another batch. These are actually squash growing on there, and when it was hot at the middle of the day, I just put a bit of newspaper over the top of them, just to stop that sun from pouring down on them and drying them out too quickly. So the main thing that I've wanted to say about watering in these very few moments is that you just need to get to know your plants a bit, and look at them and kind of feel into them. So in my tunnel at the moment, I've got a load of these Ethiopian cabbage. And when I walk in here at this time of day, I'm just looking at them and going, whoa, they need watering. I mean, if you look at these, the whole lot are, they're kind of pathetic. They're all wilting down. Now, you know, they've picked up a bit in the last half hour or so because the sun's come off them, but they were all droopy as anything. What they're saying is, water me. And actually, again, they're better off, they'll be fine. I'll water them now and they'll pick up. And it's better to do that than to soak the whole lot and leave them in a squash of mud. But, you know, if you look at plants, you'll see them wilting, or you'll see them being in a sog of mud. And you know, somewhere in between the two is what you're looking for. So that's really all I have to say about watering. Using common sense, getting to know your plants, and working with them. And now we're going to make another short video. This one's about hardening off, which is about how you prepare plants that have been in the greenhouse or been under cover to go out into the garden.